Hey everybody, it's good to be on Facebook Live once again doing these readings. And you guys might be wondering, why does Bo do these readings anyway? Well, because they're not only cool for me, but I'm hoping that it is cool for you guys out there as well. Not a ton of people read, and we all read different books, and it's always neat to hear different perspectives and different things that people are reading. And I thought with the different way our culture goes and different things that happen in our culture, sometimes there's misunderstandings of words. And one of those words that kind of came up over the last few months is that word martyrdom. That always hit me. And so I thought of at some point reading this book by Reverend Wurmbrand, the founder of the Voice of the Martyrs. And he does his organization has done great work over the years, and on what from a Christian perspective on what happens in our world with Christian persecution and martyrdom, and just to give you an idea, like in our day, like today, like in 2020. Earlier this year, roughly 350 Nigerian Christians were killed, and by June, the total was over 1,200 murdered for their faith. So at this rate, there's probably going to be 2,400 innocent Christians in Nigeria that will be slaughtered and killed just because of their faith in Christianity. And that certainly is an outrage and something that we should, be saddened about. But a lot of times you don't hear that. And when you don't understand really what's going on in the world, worldwide, sometimes we can use phrases or we can get involved with certain things in our world that we really kind of lose perspective on really where things are really going really bad. All killing is bad, and it's super sad. And Wurmbrand just does a great job of bringing out some of the real atrocities that happen in our world. And I know it's hard always to grab, but it's good for us. So that's why I do it, is because I think it's great to have perspective, and perspective sometimes helps us with a lot of things. Anyway, he's writing a book called The Answer to the Atheistic Handbook. And Wurmbrand, let's see if we can go over, just if you can remember a little bit, he was Romania, his homeland's Romania. He died in 2001. He was in jail for a number of years. Because of his faith in Christianity in Russia. So communists seized Romania in 1945 and attempted to control the churches. He was definitely a part of the underground church back then and was imprisoned for that. That's an atrocity too, by the way. And so sometimes when you get involved with an act of injustice, you have to look and say worldwide, is that the right injustice to get involved in? And is there other acts of injustice that I'm ignoring at the expense of this injustice? And do I ignore all the other injustices of the world for this one cause that I'm involved in? Are there worst causes or worst injustices that you're ignoring? Serious questions, obviously. Ones that many people, when they're involved in a cause, don't want to really think about because it ruins the cause. So, and that's issues of pride and all the stuff that's in us as human beings that we struggle with, right? And we always want to think that our positions are correct. And if you have a subjective right or wrong, then it really doesn't matter if you're right or wrong, actually, because it's all subjective anyway. But if you have a set of objective moral values based not on human beings, but based on something outside of human beings, i.e., God or gods or whatever's objective, then there's something to critique in our behavior as humans. So he ends by saying, not even Darwin, the great favorite of my opponents, could adhere to it, meaning adhere to atheism. He wrote the impossibility of conceiving that this grand and wondrous universe with our conscious selves arose through chance seems to be the chief argument for the existence of God. For atheists, atheism is self-evident. Then why the need to propagate the obvious? Christians do not consider Christianity as self-evident as the fact that 2 and 2 are 4. If it were so, there would be no atheist. We find some of the attitudes of our opponents sensible. There is a place in our understanding for them. Atheism has only atheism and denies to religion every right to exist. Therefore, it is not sensible. Now, as Wurmbrand was imprisoned, he saw that the book that was used in Russia was published in 1932, and this book was or let me get this right, is actually 1961 by the Moscow's Academy of Science, and it was the Atheistic Handbook. So he writes this book as a rebuttal, if you will, to that, an answer to it. And he says some really neat things. You know, I love his attitude in this book too. It's really cute. Sometimes he'll say, let me see if I can find something that I find really one of his kind of neat statements. Atheists should know, first of all, that Christians are not their enemies, but their friends. We love atheists, and love understands. Absolutely. Hopefully you're loving today. Okay, so he says, this is his chapter, Who Are Our Opponents? So I'm kind of picking up where we left off, what I just read, kind of about Darwin. Who are our opponents? If a plain cloth or clothes man asks me to show him my identity, my first reaction is to ask him who he is. He has to prove that he is from the police, otherwise he has no right to question me. If I confront the incomprehensible reality of the universe and ask the Sphinx, who are you? Is there a Godhead in you? Were you created by an artist, or have you existed from eternity? I might receive the reply, tell me first who you are, little man. Are you of such worth that the ultimate mystery should be revealed to you? And if I were to share them with you, would you have the capacity to understand and to accept truth in all its purity, even if it were contrary to your own interest and to everything you believed and cherished until now? The authors of the Atheistic Handbook deny the existence of God, but do they themselves exist? Who are they? Can they prove their own existence? In order for an atheist author to pose daring questions, he has to posit, P-O-S-I-T, billions of years before his birth, the existence of galaxies and astral dust. There had to be stars and celestial mechanics and a sun to regulate the movement of the earth, without which life would have been impossible. The atheist can ask daring questions precisely because there exist water, herbs, animals, and microorganisms, and such realities as electricity and heat, risen bread and fermented wine, cosmic rays and falling rain, and the overwhelming reality of human personality. There had to be a whole line of ancestors, and milk in his mother's breast, and love in her heart. Hey, I gotta play some background tunes, my friend. I'm gonna be working on some stuff. Oh yeah, cool. A little background music to the... Even assuming the atheist presuppositions an unfathomable reality has produced, through the interaction of time and chance over the incomprehensible period of billions of years, both an atheistic lecturer and a Christian saint. Why? Who are they? Why are they? In fact, are they? You know as much about this as you know why the Earth, together with the whole solar system, runs uninterruptedly toward a certain constellation, as if it had an appointment. They are attracted. But what is the universal attraction? Attraction is a word which we use sometimes for lovableness. Who loves? Who is the beloved? Atheists speak, as do preachers, about leaving their confusing voices and listening to voices of leaves, brooks, winds, storms, birds, little children. These might be more instructive than many of our words. Hey, what happened to my tunes, man? We gotta get those things going. Okay, there we go. We're back again. Those who live in tune with nature believe. Atheism started as an urban phenomenon in the distorted minds of those who had to live behind walls, social as well as structural. And what about listening to the great silence? From where came the beauty of snowflakes, flowers, ferns, lichens, each a different piece of exquisite embroidery? From where came the wonderful arrangement of elementary particles in the atom? How is it that the electron revolves in its orbit hundreds of millions of times every 100,000ths of a second, so that what is in constant motion should give us solid objects to handle? Did you ever hear about a machine with 80 trillion electrical cells? One of its parts weighing only 50 ounces, in a mechanism consisting of 10 billion cells which generate, receive, record, and transmit energy. This wonderful machine is your body. How graceful you would be if someone presented you with a car, but you were given a much finer machine. By whom? How is it that chemical changes in the neurons of the brain become, with a change of sediments, another thought? How is it that a man exhaling the position of the poison carbon dioxide transforms it into a world of love, or even a world carrying the message of eternal life? How is it that when you wish to do an evil thing, it is as if an unseen hand would restrain you? Whose hand is this? Even if the voice of conscience is not powerful enough to make you abandon a wicked intention, you hear it later in the form of regret and remorse. Who are you to ask reality's identity? What if this reality should answer, since in your arrogance you set yourself up as an authority, please indicate first who you are? That's funny. Could you indeed answer one of the thousands of questions that reality asks you? The development of science has not so much increased the knowledge of facts as it has increased the number of questions to which we must find the answers. You question reality about its last mysteries, about its sense, about its design, about the existence of a creator. To whom should reality answer, and in what language? Primitive tribes to which the first missionaries went had no words of such concepts as love, faith, forgiveness, spirit, holy. Train. The missionaries were restricted in their ability to communicate their message or to share the realities of their own country. Have you a common language with the highest reality? And again, to whom should this reality speak? You acknowledge only reason. But according to your materialistic doctrine, reason is the manner in which the human brain works. The elephant's brain is otherwise constituted. Its work is called instinct. To yours you have given a nicer name, and yet both brains you insist are accidents of evolution. The random agglomeration of atoms over eons of time, without the impinging of a designer. You consider atheism to be the truth, but before applying the notion truth to atheism, you have to define what you mean by truth. Pilate asked Jesus in the Bible, "What is truth?" Whoever does not know the answer to that question has no basis on what to assert that anything is true. Skeptics have said that truth is a suspicion that has endured, or a hallucination agreed upon by a majority. But they mock as a hallucination might be error pointed in the right direction. All alchemy and astrology were just such fruitful errors, precursors of chemistry and astronomy. What is your definition of truth? A Marxist would say that truth is conditioned by social class. The economic conditions in which a man lives determine his convictions. In a letter to Kluss dated December 7, 1852, Marx describes his own economic condition. He says he is as good as imprisoned because he lacks trousers and shoes, and that his family risks being plunged into deep poverty. We are moved to feel sorry for him, but when Marxism is the mentality of men without trousers and shoes, but then Marxism is the mentality of men without trousers and shoes. Today, all proletarians in the West have trousers and shoes. Pants, man, I'm going to say pants and shoes. More than one pair. So Marxism does not suit us. We have to have a truth of our own. Marxism proclaims itself as truth and has no valid definition of the word. It is interesting that Marxism, allegedly the doctrine of the proletariat, excludes proletarian thinkers from truth. Marx writes in a letter to Sorg dated October 19, 1877, "The workers themselves, when they give up work and become professional literary men, always breed theoretical mischief and are always ready to join muddleheads. The radical student movements also cannot have truth. Marx writes about the stupid nonsense the Russian students are perpetrating, which is worthless in itself. Apparently for Marxists, there is only one valid definition of truth. Truth is what you think when you have no pants and shoes. For some mysterious reason, pants seem to be the terrible hindrance to the possession of truth. Let us leave all of this." Wow. We will serve our opponents with a current definition. Truth is the consistency of the object of thinking, reality, with its product, our own mentality. However, such consistency is no confirmation that you have apprehended reality rightly. Otherwise, how can you account for the existence of error? You assert that religion is error, but religion is the consistency between reality and another man's mentality. So a man can be very sure about the justice of his manner of thinking and still be mistaken. What if you were the victim of such a delusion? Suppose a Christian became an atheist. He would then acknowledge his prior thinking to be false. With this mind open to error, he would embrace your ideology. How could he know for sure that he had not fallen into another wrong belief? He might feel sure his thoughts now correspond to reality, but thus he believed when he was still religious. Do you not see that there must be a light beyond a reality and pseudo-reality beyond what we call truth and error to tell us with authority which is which? Even atheist convictions can exist consistently. How rare is consistency in human thought, only by acknowledging his supreme light, which we adore in religion. Should the highest speak with you in the language of reason, but how much can reason comprehend? Reason justified slavery, absolute monarchy, superstition. It made us cheer dictatorships and justify world wars, which were mass slaughters of innocent beings. Mephistopheles says of man, so Mephistopheles says of man, he calls it reason and uses it only to be more animalistic than any animal. Man must always rationalize, conceptualize, and intellectualize all things. Goethe suggests, or Goethe, how I don't know exactly how to pronounce it, suggests 2 centuries ago that our planet is the mental institution of the universe. We have the reason of a race that has flickering of genius and truth, but shows clearly that it has gone mad. Even with the wisest of us, reason is only a harmony among irrational impulses. Reason, in order to produce right results, would have to be unsullied by a low sediments of animated by noble desires. Why should you seek right results if you are not animated by a passion, the love of truth? So a passion, a powerful sediment, while sometimes a hindrance, can in other instances be a driving force for right reasoning. It is its very presupposition. How do we know the syllogisms produce right thinking? Well, we just feel it. And we feel it not only in small things, but also in great ones. Einstein said of his famous theory before it was ever submitted to the crucible of experiment that he felt it to be true. What is this feeling? It does not belong to reason, neither does intuition, but they satisfy an Einstein. Evidently, it is not only external, there is also inward evidence which sometimes contradicts our senses. This inward conviction, faith, is itself one of the great facts of the universe. It must be respected and explained like any other fact of nature. The reasoning of Einstein was based on presuppositions outside of reason. Atheism also rests on a faith. It too has presuppositions. It rests on the feelings that it is worthwhile to spend life denying the non-existent. Nietzsche, the great prophet of the Antichrist, had the honesty to acknowledge this. He wrote, "Even we, devotees of knowledge today, we godless ones and anti-metaphysicians, still take our fire, too, from a flame which a faith thousands of years old has kindled, that Christian faith, which was also the faith of Plato, that God is truth, that God is divine." Nietzsche was sorry about it, but he considered himself still pious. If sentiments play such a big role in the convictions of believers and unbelievers alike, why should the highest speak to you, proud reason, and not to these sentiments? Lenin says in his philosophical copybooks that matter has the capacity for self-reflection. It reflects itself in thinking. And who's thinking? That's the question. In that of a person? Now, if whatever we think is a reflection of reality, and if all our thoughts are so very personal, the truth which they reflect must be a person whom we apprehend clearly or dimly, or in a distorted manner, or even without knowing whom we really apprehend. Jesus said the truth is a person himself. Just try to express this in syllogism. You will come to the conclusion that Jesus' assertion must be true, a mysterious truth. If you do not have the sediment of mystery, you cannot arrive at truth. Why do you believe what your mind tells you? You know that it is unreliable. You just arose from hours of sleep in which this same mind tricked you with an illusionary world. It lies to you every night. It lies in your daydreams and in your fancies. It is reasonable to rely blindly on your mind. Millions of men relying on their minds cheered a Hitler and a Stalin as great geniuses. Their same minds later indicted them as mass murderers. It says, you have often discovered your mind to be in error. It does not even pretend to tell you the truth. It is deceitful and self-serving, telling you rather what you would like to hear. It tells the atheist that there is no God. It tells the religionist that he can be comfortable. It tells the member of any political party that its program is the best. We have all made mistakes. The whole history of mankind is a big cemetery of ideas for which men are ready to die. Are you sure that your ideas will not one day be considered as stupid as the idea that the earth is born by Atlas? Relying on the minds, 99% of men, even in our century, believe in the absolute validity of the law of causality. But Heisenberg is right, along with the very few who understand his assertion. The resolution of the paradoxes of atomic physics can be explained only by renunciation of old and cherished ideas. Most important of these is the idea that natural phenomena obey exact laws, the principle of causality. Did you ever visit an asylum? Where is the barrier between an asylum and everyday life? It might lie in a microbe of syphilis lodging in the brain of a genius, or in an unbearable emotion that caused a brilliant mind to disintegrate. Do the authors of the Atheist Handbook know what Sophrocrates, I don't even know that word, never even seen it, Spirochetti may have begun its destructive work in their brain? Khrushchev describes Stalin's regime as a hell in which even communist leaders had to tremble for their lives. Thus, even the authors of the Atheist Handbook must have endured terrible trauma. Can they be sure they are completely sane? Is any one of us? We belong to a race which, while living on a rich earth, find no other solution to its problems than a general massacre every 30 years. There must be something wrong with our minds. Are atheists justified in relying on their minds? What man could not be categorized, at least in part, as a maniac, a neuropath, an addict, a man obsessed, a schizophrenic, a megalomaniac, a pervert, a man with a confused mind? Where is the perfect, normal mind? Why are you, or who are you, mind? Show your identity. Who is your ultimate authority? Whom can you question about reality and ask to reveal to you its final secrets? There arises on the surface of the ocean a reality, a minuscule drop, my being. It arises within the ocean. It cannot leave the ocean even for a moment. My being is a part of it, ravaged by its tempests. As soon as myself poses as a king and wishes to judge the reality, instead of humbly feeding on it, I am no more a reality, but a non-entity, an illusion. There exists only one reality, God. He has created, but within himself, in him we have our being, life, and movement. He engulfs all that he creates, just as billions of cells, every one with a complete organization of having all the functions of life, receive their existence from the body, live by it and in it. So we all are a part of a higher reality. We live in God. When we oppose ourselves to him, our existence loses its meaning. Wise men know how to take a joke, even if they are its subject. Without malice, we will tell our atheist friends a joke. The Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union discussed the problem of Khrushchev's, Brezhnev and others said, "He is an idiot. Let us get rid of him." Pogorny intervened. "But how is it possible to transplant organs? Let us transplant in him the brain of a genius." The others consented. A surgeon was called and an operation successfully completed. But it did not provide the expected result. They had forgotten about the phenomenon of rejection. The brain of a genius rejected Khrushchev's. Take it as a joke, but an enlightened mind, a mind enlightened by its creator and in harmony with him, rejects atheist doctrine. Okay, so that is who are our opponents. So very, very cool, very, very philosophical in a lot of ways. And there was some good stuff there, some really good stuff to ponder. And I love him questioning kind of, how do you know that what you're thinking is true? How do you even know what truth is? What is true? How do you define what truth is? And he brings up a little bit something I thought that was cool, and that was about Pontius Pilate in the Bible, about objective truth being not just something that we perceive in reality, but it's something that is a person. That's what Jesus claimed, is that truth is an actual person. It's an objective person. So it's not subjective to what your mind's thinking, because how do you know your mind's perceiving the right thing? And especially in an evolutionary mindset, your mind's not thinking the right thing, because a million years from now, your mind's going to be, those people are going to think what we think is absolutely ridiculous. So what you're doing in your life has no meaning. It has no right. There's no really right or wrong to it all. It's really nothing. But the Bible says that there is an objective truth, and that objective truth is God. It's outside of us. So he kind of brings up that point too. And and he brings up different people like Nietzsche, and about that even though he tried to diminish the idea of God, he actually upheld the image of God by, he's still working within the bubble, if you will, of Christianity. So even though by saying, hey, there is no truth or these kind of things, he's claiming truth claims, and he's still within that bubble. So he's within that bubble of claiming truth and believing truth and living based off those presuppositions that are on all of us. So anyway, he brings up different people like that too. So very cool. I'm going to continue to read this book because, man, this guy knows he's a very good writer, and there's a lot of great ideas here. So anyway, we will begin the difficulty of being an atheist in the next one. And again, this is Richard Wurmbrand's answer to the Atheist Handbook. And this was the handbook of Russia that was back in 1961? Yep, 1961. And the book has been reprinted many times. And just so you remember that Reverend Wurmbrand languished for 14 years in communist prisons, beaten, starved, and finally set free, and started the Voice of the Martyrs. So if you want to look at injustices in the world, you might want to check out the website, The Voice of the Martyrs, okay? And don't be afraid to look at these things, okay? And it might change your mind a little bit on different stuff. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.